Thank you for joining us. We're going to talk about execution. As Paul said, my name is Kiran Yaskan. I am a partner at Prime Group and CEO of United Minds, the market research and analysis leg of Prime Group. And we're going to talk about execution and creativity, of course, in regards to execution. And we will try to look at different ways of creating good ideas and how agencies can follow through on those ideas across multiple channels. How do we create engaging content to reach the desired audience in the most appropriate format? I guess that's the main question today. So what we will try to do is kind of present our cases, and you do that pretty swiftly, and then hopefully we will have a brief discussion where we will also, of course, welcome you into that. But first of all, let me begin by introducing today's panel. Kelly Denker is SVP of Health and Director at Coin PR and works with brands such as Pfizer and Novartis. He's also the adjunct professor with the graduate program of Public Relations and Corporate Communications at New York University. Welcome.
Thank you.
Deborah Castro is the Operations Director for the Brazilian agency approach. And in this capacity, Deborah oversees all processes of customer service within the agency. Welcome to you as well.
Thank you very much.
And then Jim Joseph is the president of Cohen & Wolf in North America and has 25 years of experience in PR. And you're also an author. And you're coming out with a new book, your second book, The Experience Effect on Small Businesses. And Mr. Rodney Williams, you will be pretty much our judge here today. You are a representative from the client side, Senior Vice President of Hennessy, the #1 selling cognac brand in the United States. So we will try to tap into your insights when it comes to customer perception of execution and creativity. We were supposed to have James Morera as well from Edelman, but who knows, maybe he shows up. So what we'll do now is I will let each and every one of these distinguished panelists to pretty much tell us about their cases. And I will let Kelly and Coin PR tell us about a dose of fever relief for parents.
Thank you, Karen. Good morning, everyone. I'll spend a couple of minutes just giving you an overview of the Children's Advil Dose of Relief program. And it's a program that I have a lot of pride for, and I think that there's a lot of simplicity. When we talk about creativity and execution, sometimes we always try to find something so much bigger than the obvious because we sometimes try to outthink ourselves. But the reality is sometimes it's right there in front of you. And so Children's Advil was going into its most important season. The Super Bowl of all cold and fever flu medications is cold and flu season, so October to March generally, with a spike in January. And the challenge for us was, how do we raise awareness for Children's Advil? How do we showcase the 8-hour difference of ibuprofen versus acetaminophen and really drive uptake? It was during a time that there were competitive recalls, that there were challenges in the marketplace. And so, like all of us here in the room, really set out to do the research. What were some of the levers with moms, parents, doctors? What was going on in the marketplace? And so we did a whole social media scrape. We did a media scrape. We talked to pediatricians. We talked to moms. We even talked to dads. Some interesting insight on that later. And what we discovered was one theme kept rising to the surface, and it was the fact that there was a lot of fever phobia in the marketplace. It didn't matter whether you were a mom with 3 or 4 kids and had been through countless fevers, or whether you were a new mom dealing with the fever for the first time. This fever phobia and the confusion created this whole lack of confidence among moms and parents dealing with fevers. We also knew from the research that we did that there was a significant number of emergency room visits that weren't necessary because parents were fearful of the fevers. What was it going to mean? Is my child going to die? Are they going to burn up? And we'd heard from a lot of doctors that we're getting calls all hours of the night and people going to the ER, and somebody needs to really step up and own education on fevers. So it was right there in front of us. Here's an opportunity for us to be able to reinstill confidence in parents in dealing with fevers, but at the same time, by doing so, would really entrust us with pediatricians and doctors as helping them. We all know in anything we're doing with influence is, if we can be helping doctors in the healthcare space do their job better, there's going to be some loyalty on the other side with the brands that they talk about. So we set out to do three things. First is, we had to find the right spokesperson. And it wasn't going to be about a celebrity, but we wanted to find somebody that was authentic, that had credibility. And so we worked with Dr. Alana Levine, who's a noted pediatrician in New York City. She is actually a spokesperson for the American Academy of Pediatrics. So she was already a go-to person for the media, somebody who's already trusted with the national media we would go to, is built in. Now, as part of the relationship with Pfizer, she couldn't, nor could we, talk about her as being the spokesperson for the American Academy of Pediatrics because we weren't partnering with them. And so we worked with her, and one of the key pieces was the content development. And so we worked with Dr. Levine to field the survey, and we wanted to have some fun with it too. Sometimes surveys get a bad name in the PR profession, but doing it for the right insights and the right information could take something that might be, sort of a boring piece and make it interesting and talkable. And so we looked at a parent study that looked at both mothers as well as fathers' perspectives about fevers, and we also did a survey of pediatricians on SERMO, and it gave us some great cross-reference information. For example, how many parents wake their children in the middle of the night to give them fever relief if they feel that they're hot. The reality is that they're already sleeping. The whole point of the medication is to deliver relief. There were lots of confusion about dosing. Parents that were sending their kids to school less than 24 hours after they had a fever. There were parents that were giving their kids adult medication. So there's a great opportunity for education around this. And one of the points I referenced earlier was, not surprisingly, fathers felt much more confident treating fevers in the house than moms. How many fathers are the ones always getting up in the middle of the night to deal with the fevers? We know it's the moms that are dealing with it, but it was sort of an irony for myself as a father that the men were very confident in dealing with fevers. They had no worries about it, yet they probably weren't the ones in most cases dealing with it. Now, the third piece, and one of the most critical pieces of the program, was an integration with the doctors. And this is really where it all came together. We had the content with the survey, we had our spokesperson, and we built a four-stage integration with the doctors. One was, we had a whole segment dedicated to fever relief that was going to run the first week in January. And this was a place for us to be able to showcase the results, talk about a fever. We had Dr. Jim Sears really lead the conversation. So here you have a show that is credible with moms, because it's all based with doctors, talking about fevers, and Children's Advil was front and center. It was up on the table. We had a great discussion about the 8-hour benefits of ibuprofen, how it allows a child to feel more relief longer than acetaminophen that lasts up to 4 hours. And then we built in vignettes that would run throughout the cold and flu season that would showcase different parts of the survey results. And again, these would be the sort of cutouts with Jim Sears, and we're gonna show a video in a moment. And it was all pulled together through a very aggressive blogger outreach program, reaching out to moms with the tips, the fun facts. We put together some care packages with a stuffed bear with a Children's Advil t-shirt on it, and coloring books and toys for the kids. And the mommy bloggers really ate it up, but really furthered our message. So we really felt that we touched all the walls of the room to really bring us back to the center of education and fever phobia. So with that, we just have a short video to share with you, 30 seconds.
I've partnered with Children's Advil, and what I like about it is that it contains ibuprofen, which can last up to 8 hours with just one dose, so children can really get rest that they need when they're not feeling well.
The goal of fever medication is to also provide relief to your child while their body fights the illness.
And with this, we were challenged to launch the Facebook page, and really without any other support, grew 30,000 likes within the first 3 weeks, and right now it's upwards of about 400,000 fans and doing well. But the sales results really spoke for themselves, and we talk about, I know the next section is about measurement, but working with your clients to understand what the sales uptakes were the impact of communications, the word from the field of pediatricians, and the program and the tools that they were getting was really valuable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Of course, I have a lot of follow-up questions, but I think I'll save them until the discussion. So let's turn to Deborah and approaches skin cancer prevention, an annual battle for access to information. Would you please present your case?
Good morning. Thank you for being here. Today we're going to talk about the battle against the skin cancer, which is a big issue in Brazil. It hits about 25% of the cases of the cancer diagnostics cases are skin cancer. So we are going to show you a video to hit up our conversation, and then we detail it more. Please.
Brazil is a tropical country with nearly 8,000 kilometers of coastline. An average annual temperature between 20 and 27 degrees Celsius, and a high percentage of the population working outdoors, on beaches, streets, farms, etc. In 2012, the Brazilian Dermatology Association conducted its annual national campaign for the prevention of skin cancer. With 13 years focused on building awareness of the risks of excessive sun exposure, the campaign has had very satisfactory results in the early diagnosis and treatment of skin cancer, which still represents 25% of malignant tumors in the country. To keep the attention on the issue, the National Fight Against Skin Cancer Day was created in order to remind authorities and the general population of the simple measures which can be taken to prevent the development of tumors. The campaign included hundreds of free clinics across the country focused on building awareness through prevention. 23 states covered, 4,000 volunteers, and mobile clinics traveling to the most remote regions. In this scenario, a powerful strategy of communication was one of the key tools to take information throughout the country. Engaging the media of all the 23 states was a premise to bring people not only to the local approach of the campaign, but also to a major reflection, the importance of sun protection for the skin.
Also, as you can see, Brazil is a huge country. We have more than 8,000 kilometers of coast extension, and we have a very sunny culture. Besides that, almost 50% of our population is a white origin because we were colonized by Portuguese, Italians, and Germans. So we have this historical sensitive skin. For 13 years, our client, which is the Brazilian Society Association, Brazilian Dermatology Association, which is the only institution able by law to talk for the dermatologists and to send population information about the basic skin care. They used to do this campaign during a month, so it was very spread. So we took the risk, and we said to our client, why not doing it just one day, to make it remarkable, to make it a statement in our Brazilian schedule. No? And they agreed with us, so we went away. What happens is Brazil is a huge country. We have more than 25 states with different culture, different food, different habits, and different climate as well. Also, we don't have a unique newspaper, a single newspaper that covers all the territory. In spite of that, we have a very powerful communication group, which is TV Globo. And we said, well, we must have them with us. We must make them to grab this history and render the service for the population, because this case is about engagement, media placement, and rendering service. We had to make people conscious and to make them go to the health unities in that day. So it was the last Saturday from November. We had 1,500 volunteers, doctors volunteers working in 144 unit healths, and also some mobile tents that had been situated in very busy locations in Brazil. Our job approach, we also convinced our clients that it was very important to hire some partners in small cities, in other cities that we were not, because this kind of job, it has to be done in one-to-one. No, you have to be there fighting and calling people and asking to engage all the population. So approach belongs to a network chain in Brazil with agencies in the main capitals. We hire them, and we were responsible to coordinate all this process, all the key messages, all the press releases that had been spread, the numbers. We prepared all the spokesperson, and it was really a success. We increased the number of people that had been examined in 2000. In 2011, it was about 31,000 people examined, and about 3,900 diagnostics of skin cancer during a month. In 2012, the day that we decided to fix, we had 33,000 people examined, which in that 4,500 people had been diagnosed with cancer skin. And we also had a very nice media coverage. We had more than 700 insertions in the press, printed and electronic radio. Radio was a very important media for us because, we have small cities in the Amazon, small cities in the south of Brazil, that they even have web. So the radio is the main media that we can use, and also the TV. So we were in care with the national TV, where we took TV Globo editorially with us. They grabbed the history, they rendered the service for the population. And our partners in the small cities, they have done a great job also with their regional media. So the message was spread, and we really hit the people, and lots of people, millions of people had lines to be examined, and it was really a success. We were very glad to help in this issue because it's very important.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So let's trying to chase down the wild rabbit with Rodney and Jim from Hennessy and Conan Wolf. Please tell us about your case.
Okay, well, I'll give a little bit of the context and from a client standpoint. So Hennessy, when we launched this a year ago, was at an interesting inflection point. The brand had been pretty heavily impacted by the economic downturn in 2008. It was flat in terms of sales for 4 years. And so management basically said, we want a big idea for a new campaign. And in this case, the client actually meant it, because we know they can say it a lot of times and not really mean it. But there were some particular challenges in that the brand wasn't broken then. It's a leader with about 60 share, so it needed to kind of reinvent itself in terms of attracting a new, younger demographic, 21 to 34-year-old males, and still retain the loyalty of some of the older consumers. So we developed this idea very much in collaboration with the advertising agency and Conan Wolf around this notion of never stop, never settle, and triangulated to get there. It's true of the brand. It's been around for 248 years old, still trying to perfect the best possible cognac, and very resonant to the target that we were trying to reach, who at that age stage is really beginning careers, beginning family, really finding themselves, and in difficult, challenging economic times, there was some entendre to what it actually meant. We created a device called What's Your Wild Rabbit, which is really a proxy for saying what's your innermost dream or passion. And because we knew that many of our consumers, our loyal consumers, didn't necessarily feel empowered to go after that. Another thing that makes Hennessy unusual is that It's a luxury brand, but it has a huge ethnic following. It's very big in Asia, so we have a huge Asian American following. We were launched in Mexico in 1860, so we have a huge Hispanic following, and it's very, very loved among African Americans. So this notion of never stop, never settle was powerful. What the research taught us was that Wild Rabbit was not understood initially. It was so dissonant to the way spirits brands are advertised in the US with clinking glasses and smiling people with great teeth. So the data basically said consumers are going to need 3 or more exposures to the campaign before they really get the idea. And we certainly saw it in qualitative, where we got these blank looks initially when we first showed the creative. But I think one guy who said, I don't even have a wild rabbit, but I appreciate being asked, and I really like the idea that you respected my intellect. So we knew that we had a bridge to really connect emotionally with these consumers, but we needed PR and communications to really play a critical role in filling the gaps and bringing people up the comprehension curve. So we'll show a quick video in terms of some of the impact that the campaign's had.
Return to the Mac. Get up what it is, what it does, what it is, what it isn't. Looking for a better way to get up out of bed instead of getting on the internet and checking a new hit. Me get up. First shot, come strut walking. A little bit of humble, a little bit of cautious. Somewhere between like Rocky and Cosby's for the game. Nope, y'all can't copy yet. Bad moonwalking, and this here is our party. My posse's been on Broadway, and we did it all way. Chrome music. I shed my skin and put my bones into everything I record to it. And yeah, I'm on. Let that stage light go and shine on down. Got that Bob Barker suit game and Plinko in my style. Money, stay on my craft and stick around for those pounds. But I do that to pass the torch and put on for my town. Trust me, on my INDEPENDENT shit hustling. Chasing dreams since I was 14 with the 4-track bustin'. Halfway across that city with the back question. Labels out here, now they can't tell me nothing. Ceiling can't hold us, like the ceiling can't hold us.
But so we put our hands up. But so we put our hands up.
Let's go. And all my people say, that's right. And all my people say, that's the tune, right? And all my people say, can we go back? This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we brought our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. Go back. This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we brought our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us.
Since we're talking about the creative process, I think that this campaign is a perfect example of needing to have kind of a perfect storm. It was a fully integrated campaign. It was a global campaign. It was rooted from a very core emotional insight about people's potential and from a very big idea, but then it had to have real legs, and we had to have a real emotional connection with our consumers if we were going to make it more than just an advertising idea and really make it resonate. So we literally asked consumers, what's your wild rabbit? What's your potential? What's your passion point? What makes you never stop, never settle? And we used inspiration from some very big, influential folks that these people looked up to, like Martin Scorsese, Erykah Badu, Manny Pacquiao, and asked them what's their wild rabbit, what drives them. And again, that became inspiration for our consumers to jump on our campaign, tell us what drives them. And it's a great example of multiple agencies working together. Any idea from any place was a great idea. We shared assets. We were on unbelievably tight deadlines. In the entertainment business, you have to jump and you have to move when you have an opportunity. And we did that as a fully integrated interagency team. So the creative process was sort of managed, but also very fluid and a lot of fun, as you can imagine, in the process. And lots of shots of Hennessy along the way.
Thank you so much. Great. So last and least, I'm going to tell you about Plumbers Without Borders, our case from Prime. So just roll the video first and I'll take it from there.
What did you want to be when you grew up? Police officer? Doctor? Fireman? Plumber?
Comfort är Sveriges största VVS-kedja. Vi består av flera tusen rörmokare. Vid en intern mätning som vi gjort såg vi att vi behövde stärka kedjan. Vi behövde enas kring något, skapa stolthet och stärka oss tillsammans.
But how do you unite a franchise made up of loosely connected companies? And at the same time, boost pride among plumbers? It's not like they save lives, like firemen. Or do they? 4,000 children die every day from lack of safe water in the world. So it was clear that we had an unsung hero to make public, and at the same time unite the franchise. Comfort initiated a project designed to secure safe water for the people that need it most, and they engaged the global NGO SOS Kinderdorf to guide them there.
Vi ser att Comfort har en expertis som vi kan ha stor nytta av när det gäller att barn ska ha tillgång till rent vatten.
A project where the employees of Comfort could prove to themselves that they count for something, that they serve a purpose.
Pure water means health for children.
Je bois de l'eau et je me lave et je dors.
Vi fann att vi kunde göra skillnad. Men vi fann också en ny självbild och det har svetsat samman oss som kedja.
Comfort is proving to themselves and the world that their job is more than just changing pipes and installing pumps, but providing the essentials of life, clean water.
Essentially, Comfort came to us and said, you know, we have this internal challenge, and can we do an event to try to gather everybody and talk about what it is we do? And we said, sure, we can do that, but let's do more than that. I would like to give you 3 principles that we try to work from at Prime that I think captures this case in a sense. I think we're moving away from creating awareness that generates value to creating value that generates awareness. We wanted them to create actual value in Benin, in Bulgaria, in Lithuania. That itself can create and generate the awareness that will strengthen the brand. I mean, we talk a lot about value proposition, and what we talk to them about, what are your values? What are your values proposition? What is it that you want to tell all those franchise owners, but also the surrounding community of what is it that you stand for? So we try to delve into that also in this case. And when it comes to integration and the 360 integration, I think we are more and more talking about integrating into market, society, and industry. Because we tend to see human beings as, you know, whatever works for us in the moment. Sometimes they're consumers, sometimes they're professionals, sometimes they're citizens. But we want to see human beings. So we're always trying to see that what is the value of this communication looking at market, society, and industry. And I guess in this case, when it comes, although this was an internal campaign, we could show that these guys are skilled. If you hire these guys, if they can fix water purification in Benin, they can fix your toilet. You don't have to worry. They are integrated into society, into citizens. They are corporate citizens. They care about the development of society. And they are also, I mean, business leaders, market leaders. They push the industry forward and say that, well, we have a purpose and we are going this way. So I think these are some of the thoughts that we try to do in pretty much everything we do, but that kind of is highlighted in this case as well. All right, moving on to some questions. You know, we talk a lot about creativity, and there's this concept about the black box of creativity. You know, there's an input, and then there's a black box, and you don't know what's going on, and then there's output. So let's try to open up that black box a bit. I mean, what was the, like, one thing that made your case so successful? You know, the thing that you refer to when you say, we should do this more. This was a really great idea. This was a great approach. Would you like to start, Jim?
Sure. I think what we found fascinating working on the Wild Rabbit campaign is that the black box, as you say, was a little bit different for every agency. So the advertising agency had their black box process, we had ours, digital, et cetera. And PR and comms firms approach creativity very differently. And I know this myself, having run an ad agency and run a digital agency. We all operate it a little bit differently. And comms teams, everybody's creative. Everybody is. They go into the room functioning as a creative soul. And in advertising agencies, as an example, those roles tend to be a little bit more defined. And our definition of creative tends to be about idea generation and interaction and engagement and those kinds of concepts, whereas with advertising, it's much more visual and headline oriented and that kind of thing. So the process of bringing those agencies together, all centered around one core idea and satisfying everybody's needs for creativity and taking everybody's creative thoughts into account was a big black box and not so easy to manage and not so easy to maneuver, but at the end, probably a much richer place because we encompassed everybody's point of view and everybody's version of creative, and we ticked off many more boxes than we thought we even had on the list because we were able to capture all of everybody's thinking, which was pretty amazing and somewhat rare that we started with one core concept and actually ended with the same core concept, just fully fleshed out from a creative perspective.
And I guess this fully integrated approach between the agencies wouldn't happen if you hadn't pointed toward them and said, well, guys, let's do this.
Well, I mean, we're starting with a pretty established equity.
Yeah.
But I would say one of the things that helped us tremendously is that we have monthly all-agency meetings where, to Jim's point, you know, the creative interpretations really differ in terms of medium or professional function, but bringing everybody together allows us to really gain critical alignment in places where we got to have it.
Right.
And it also is a way of updating each element of the 360 in real time. Pretty coordinated effort.
Yes. Kelly, would you like to?
Sure. I think for the Children's Advil case, it just started with getting at that insight that parents were dealing with confidence issues with fever. So it moved from hey, do we go down the creative route of function and do 8s all over the city, to how do we tap into the emotional issue that they're dealing with? And so that led us down a whole road of what are the emotional issues, who do they trust, who do we bring in to tell the story to sort of deliver them that relief message.
Deborah?
Well, in our case, I think it was very important, first of all, to change for a month, from a month to a day of a campaign. Secondly, to have Rede Globo with us editorially, supporting the story. And the other point is to have our partners in the small cities, because we need to have these many arms working and many heads working together, leading by us, but we needed them.
Yeah.
Also, another point which is very important, I think, between creativity and execution, is that you have to pay attention to your staff and to your team, not to be automatic, not to be a mechanical doing the things that you say. We have to analyze it in each step to see the strategy, if it's going well, if we are in the right way. We had only 1 month to make all these commitment and engagement case. So we had to, every day we were checking everything, checking the results, checking the messages, everything was okay, so we can go to the next step. It wasn't, automatic. This, I think, is the most important. And sometimes a small idea can be the big idea.
Yeah. We talked a lot these couple of days, well, more than that, about the power of emotion. And I would like to compare your two cases, because when it comes to your case, Kelly, the parents and the children are in a very emotional situation. And it's almost like your case is about calming them in that situation.
Right.
While you guys, you're trying to stir emotion more. How good is PR and your efforts when it comes to both your challenges?
Well, I think what PR does is it takes an emotion and makes it relatable to the consumer. So it pulls them in, it gets them to identify with it, it gets them to relate it to their own life. So Wild Rabbit, we tried to translate to what's your Wild Rabbit? How does this relate to you? And that's how you make a 248-year-old brand still relevant. You make it relevant emotionally. There are lots of options for these folks when they go to a bar or when they buy wine and spirits at home. Lots of options. Yeah. So it's not about the product per se, it's about the emotion and how the brand makes you feel and how you connect with that brand. And I think that PR does a better job of that because PR pulls people in. Advertising sets the stage, can often build awareness, can be a huge driver of it, but it's PR that really sort of gets at people and pulls at their heartstrings.
Right. And I would just add that we're in a place now from a communication standpoint that we have so many options to tell stories. The video, the digital, used to be PR was all about just placing the story in the newspaper, and now it's about content creation, it's about storytelling, it's about engaging customers online, offline, in different places, and it all starts with the story, and to your point of how do we tap into the emotion? How do we tap into what they're feeling, like Jim was saying, and get them to relate? And it starts with the storytelling.
No. Ronnie, would you like to?
Yeah, so for us, we see PR as really filling out the narrative. So we can introduce the arc using other mediums, but PR and communication, it was what really gave it life. We knew when we launched a campaign that not just comprehension, but brand linkage was going to be a big challenge. And I'll tell you, when we launched it in Paris to the CEO, he literally, his response was, look, I'm a middle-aged Belgian living in France. So what do I know about this Wild Rabbit thing? This is either an act of genius or it's madness. And fortunately, a couple months ago, he said, "Well, it's not nuts. The business has done really well." But that's the challenge. Is that I think ultimately, if you really want to do something courageously, building on what Deborah said, it's a messy process in terms of the creativity, and you have to almost embrace the messiness to be able to segue and move. There are executions that we had to cut in process because we quickly learned they didn't resonate the way we needed them to with the consumer.
Right. If I may continue with you, I mean, as I said, you're the judge here today. So, how do you approach your agency's creativity? I mean, is it about how they approach creativity, or do you judge them solely on results? Is it about staying true to you or staying true to the task at hand? Do you want them to be creative in all matters, or how do you like judge your agencies? How do you?
Well, for us, I think the key thing is to gain alignment about what is success up front in terms of what we're being measured against and what we're all collectively trying to achieve. And from there, there's a real invitation to have each agency express creativity the way they would, that's true to them, but again, aligned to ultimately the brand's DNA and what it is that we're trying to achieve.
Right. Deborah, I told you this beforehand. I loved your case because it was kind of a grassroots movement. That day, you had a lot of volunteers out there. You had a lot of, what do you call the units, mobile units out there. Yeah. So it was not just about the awareness. It's about actually, you know, we want to check you up.
Yeah, talking about people, saving people, lives, no. Yeah. I think the passion is there. We had passion in our staff, we had passion in the media, we had passion in the doctors, the volunteers, everybody were working together for one cause, which is saving lives. And, you know, we were rendering service for the people too, for the population. The information about where to go, how to go, and what to do before, after being diagnostic. So, you know, the passion was there, and I think the creativity and the passion comes together, works together. No?
Absolutely. So I think we're ready for some questions, well, maybe one or a tomato, whatever you got at hand.
So before we jump into the Q&A session, you're all aware from your programs that we have one more panel after this one. And there are a couple of things. First of all, we are running a couple of minutes behind. And second of all, I just feel like we have a little bit of a momentum going here. So we're just going to push through the coffee break. That doesn't mean that you can't pop out and grab a coffee, but if you do that, please come right back in. There will be coffee at the end of this. I certainly understand, given that we're on the 4th day of a conference and it's early in the morning and many of you were partying last night, that coffee may be a priority. So if that is the case, we understand. But we are, once you've taken a couple of questions, we're just going to push through onto the final panel and head into the home stretch. So thanks.
Thank you. We have a question over there.
My name is Maria. Just out of curiosity, the Dermatological Association, is it a state or an association formed by cosmetic companies? The question is, who triggered this campaign, basically?
No, it's formed by doctors.
By doctors.
By doctors.
Okay.
It's an association formed by doctors. There's a national...
So it's a state, basically, or...
No.
No, okay, so private clinics, state clinics.
Yes, doctors.
Okay, so it's a mixture.
If you are a dermatologist, you can be affiliated to the Dermatology Association. There's the national one, and in each capital there is the regional one that is linked to the national one. They spread the information and the exchanges. And
okay,
everything.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hi, Kathy Cripps. Great presentations. All the cases were really good. Kelly, I just wanted to ask you a quick question about social media and how that played into the execution of your campaign.
It was a huge piece on a couple levels. One was the Facebook launch and the integration with the doctors. So what we were able to do was, as part of the launch, take the segment, be able to promote it out, cross-promote with the Facebook site and the social media channels of the doctors as well, and be able to do that throughout the cold and flu season. And wrapping all that up, too, was the blogger outreach, all the media relations that we tried to drive people into the Facebook site. We actually also continued it and did a partnership with babycenter.com and did a whole social media chat with Dr. Levine, again, targeting moms, bringing it in. And that was more of an extension of the program. But social was, we knew with parents, it was the middle of the night and the fear of the fever that's where today's parents are going. They're going online. What's a fever? It's 101. Do I go to the hospital? Do I not go to the hospital? So we knew we needed to put a lot of searchable content on the web. And so that's where the survey, through the partnership, and all the different links came in.
I have a question for Rodney. What's your wild rabbit?
I get asked that a lot. Maybe to write the next great American novel.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks.